What's up, everybody? I am back with an iconic movie, a classic, a 90s classic, Space Jam, starring Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny. Oh, God. I wanted to review this at a proper time, and I think there's no other proper time than now. Considering that I did review Space Jam 2 around 2020, and that was honestly that was not good. I did not care for Space Jam 2. It clearly was some kind of cash grab just to sell HBO Max that was being rolled out at the time. It was terrible, and of course it cast LeBron James. He was terrible. God, it just feels like, look at all the stuff that Warner Brothers owns, and it's like, I don't know, I didn't care for it. Didn't serve like a good. It didn't give the same warm feeling of that the first one did. Now, of course, the first one still has its issues, like some of the acting from the athletes in this film wasn't good, but not the same like the sequel had good acting from its athletes either. But at least Michael Jordan not only tried, I would say tried, but at least did slightly better than LeBron James, and at least at the time he was more willing to poke fun of himself because they addressed his bad stint as a baseball player after he retired for a period from basketball. Of course, nowadays, at least long after the 90s, he becomes such a big brand, he wouldn't be willing to poke fun and stuff like that again. But anyway, this was directed by Joe Pytka. Had like 4 different writers on this: Leo Benvenuti, Steve Rudnick, Timothy Harris, and Herschel Wingrad. So Michael Jordan plays himself. Wayne Knight plays Stan Podolak, a publicist and assistant for Jordan. Theresa Randall, who don't get much in this, plays his wife, Junita Jordan. I don't know, was there a Junita Jordan at all? Because I know Jordan's been married at least 2 or 3 times. Yeah, that was a thing. It's kind of funny looking back on now on who Jordan shocked up with. Now I just did a movie review on the Ben Affleck film Air. It says around Nike trying to acquire Michael Jordan, and during a major speech, Sonny Vaccaro was going over all the highs and lows of what will be Michael Jordan's life, the scandals being one of them, with the having a mistress and everything like that. We got Charles Barkley, Muggsy Bogues, Sean Bradley, Patrick Ewing, and Larry Johnson playing themselves. Bill Murray playing himself. He's in here too. Larry Bird playing himself. We have Jeffrey Marcus, Jeffrey and Marcus, who are Jordan's actual children, in this film, as playing his children here. Jasmine, I think there's actual, Jasmine, daughter named Jasmine of Michael Jordan. We got Thornberry, who portrays Jordan's father, James Jordan Sr. Other cameo appearances from a handful of basketball players: Danny Ainge, Steve Kerr, Alonzo Mourning, Howard Grant. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's quite a bit. Voice cast for the cartoons: Billy West as Bugs and Elmer Fudd in most scenes. D. Bradley Baker as Daffy Duck, Tasmanian Devil, and Bull. Danny DeVito as Swackhammer. Bob Bergen as Porky Pig, Tweety, Marvin the Martian, Barnyard Dog, Hubie and Bertie, and Chester the Terrier. Bill Farmer as Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, and Foghorn Leghorn in some scenes on that one. Greg Burson as Elmer Fudd in some other scenes, and Foghorn Leghorn in other scenes. Maurice LaMarche as Pepe Le Pew, and unlike the sequel, we wasn't ashamed of Pepe Le Pew. And I get it. It's like, oh my God, he doesn't look good at children, even though you got Clockwork Orange in your freaking film. So he kind of like, talking out both sides of your freaking mouths. But that was the joke. Of course, like, it was, Pepe Le Pew taught us it was not good being aggressive towards ladies, and we're not doing that. And of course, he got punished for that. That's the joke. People don't understand what the point of Pepe Le Pew cartoons were. You had June Foray as Granny and Witch Hazel, Paul Julian as the Roadrunner, Keith Suris as Lola Bunny, and of course, every young boy's little sexual awakening was Lola Bunny. And of course, I like Lola Bunny in this. I like Lola Bunny in the Looney Tunes show, where she played like a kind of ditzy and bubbly. It's just, she's really funny in that show. Godly, I like that interpretation. Really, a big deal. It was just like driving Bugs Daffy, no pun intended, with her just absent-mindedness. It's just like, I still remember. God, it still cracks me up. She's like, during that first date, she's answering a phone call, and it's just like she spent like a couple of minutes just talking, and like, okay, bye, hangs up, and the Bugs asks like, who's that? And she was like, oh, wrong number. I was like, what? It just God, still cracked me up. Golly, it was wrong number. Like, you just had to, your brain was kind of almost fried for a second. This is like, it was so doggone funny. Oh my God. Then they didn't even know they were called this, but the aliens that come to try to take their tunes were called the Nerdlucks, which is the minions of Swackhammer. We got Jocelyn Blue, who voices the Orange leader, Pound. Didn't know they actually had names. Charity James as, sounds like a stripper name. Charity James as dim-witted Blue Blanco. He's blue colored, but his name is Blanco. June Melby as the neurotic Green's second in command, Bang. Colleen Wainwright as the diminutive Red Newt. And producer Ivan Reitman's daughter, Catherine, as the erratic Purple Bupkis. when they transformed into the Monstars, their voices are Darnell Suttles as Pound, Steve Kahela as Blanco, Joey Kamen as Bang, Dorian Harwood as Bufkiss, and T.K. Carter as Newt. Ron Wright also voices Sniffles. Frank Walker voices Jordan's bulldog Charles. Don't know why. So that is a pretty big cast. So, of course, this movie has such a banger of a soundtrack. Honestly, it's set the unlike. It's one of the things is it's one of the reasons why the first Space Jam movie hit the nostalgia button way more and is probably more beloved and thought about way more than Space Jam 2. Mostly because the soundtrack was freaking amazing. And certain, antics weren't afraid to go there. Honestly, can you remember any songs from Space Jam 2 without looking it up? There's really not an iconic hook to that freaking film. It's just nothing but product placements for Warner Brothers. It kind of sucks because you just make it into just another generic product instead of like a meaningful movie. Say what you will about the first Space Jam film, it has some heart to it. There's some heart to this film. There's no heart to Space Jam 2. It's a soulless corporate product. So of course, and I know this dude is kind of gross and deserves to be in freaking jail for the crap he pulled, but he does have banger songs. But of course, this movie opens up with R. Kelly's "I Believe I Can Fly," which is a pitch perfect song theming Michael Jordan, who flies in the air when he plays basketball. So we see it back in 1973 as he's shooting who's behind the house in North Carolina. And unlike the movie Air, which had more focus on the mom than the dad, this one has a fair amount of time with the dad, where here we don't see the mom at all. It'd be cool to have. I'm pretty sure there is a documentary with Michael Jordan. I forgot what it's called, but I think it's more centered around his sports career rather than his upbringing. It would be a dope biopic if we have something that not only covers his young life getting into the league and some parts of the league. I don't know. It probably would be like a banger of a film and a biopic. But once again, it's something that Michael Jordan, as a businessman, will be the one who have to sign off on that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, the soundtrack is phenomenal. Hold up. Looks up Space Jam soundtrack. Fly Like an Eagle by Seal. The winner, Coolio. Space Jam Quad City DJ. This is definitely the biggest banger that everybody remembers. I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly. Him High, the Monstars anthem. I Found My Smile Again, D'Angelo. For You I Will by Monica. That one's really good. Upside Down, Round and Round, Salt and Pepper. Giving You All That I've Got, Robin S. Basketball Jones, Barry White, and Chris Rock. I Turn to You, All for One. All of My Days, R. Kelly featuring Changing Faces and Jay-Z. That's the Way I Like It, Spin Doctors, and Buggin', Bugs Bunny. Yeah, this, God, the soundtrack in this is just like so iconic. It is honestly one of the, it's probably considered one of the best soundtracks in movie history. No joke. Anyway, so as he's, as far as taking notice of how good his son is getting at, playing basketball, you hear his son. God, I remember watching it. Sorry, a little side tangent. The first time I watched this is like the first movie my mom took me to took me and my younger brother to when we was little kids. I think the first movie my father took me to was Batman Forever. At least that's what I remember. My earliest memories of going to the theater. Space Jam was my mom. It was the movie that my mom took me to, and Batman Forever was the first movie my father took me to. So of course I have like some kind of special ties to those movies. Just like my earliest cognitive memory of movie going experiences. Anyway, you hear like a young Michael Jordan talking about how like, I want to play for North Carolina, then I want to play for the NBA. And of course, like, we hear like his father give the line, so I guess after you do all that, I guess you want to fly, huh? And then of course he goes to do go for like I guess a slam dunk. Actually showing his potential of flying. We then see like a little montage stirring up of his time as a basketball player, and you hear that iconic song, the Space Jam song by Quad City, and it's just like I said, it set the tone. Sometimes needle drops set the tone for the entire film, and you just get hype. You just get hype for that film. So, highly recommend you guys re-listen to the soundtrack of Space Jam. It's just one of the best ones. I can't rave about it enough. Anyway, so fast forward to the point where Michael Jordan first announced that he's going to retire from basketball to play baseball. I think this is set sometime after his father's death, where he decided to pursue baseball like him and his father talked about when he was young. And of course, at the time, people was kind of like bewildered, because not to say it was not feasible, but I don't know if it was that common to see an athlete go from one sport to a different one and still play at that peak of a level. And of course, we know, as great as Michael Jordan is, God doesn't give with both hands. He is terrible at baseball, just awful. I remember that as a kid, seeing him trying out baseball just to see how well he does, because people were very much curious. Can he easily transition? And he cannot. Vastly different sport. Obviously, it's a vastly different sport, but he's so good at one sport, there's no way he can just like turn a different mechanism on to play at a competitive level with baseball. So we then go to outer space to this planet Moron Mountain, this alien amusement park that's, struggling, and we see the owner of Swackhammer, who wants to bring back business, and of course he accidentally switched channels, and it turns on to the Looney Tunes cartoons, and then he gets an idea. Oh, we'll get these guys. They're funny. We can have like these funny characters part of our attraction. So he orders the Nerdlucks. Can't get used to that name. I did not even know that's what they were called. He sends the Nerdlucks to go to Earth, because I guess the Looney Tune world is at the center of the Earth, apparently. Go to Earth, abduct the Looney Tunes, and bring them back to Moron Mountain. So that's what they do. And of course, here's a nitpick I have about this film. People are way too nonchalant about cartoons, being face to face with legit cartoons, and they act like, well, yeah, this is like a thing. This is not like something like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where it's always been like a thing where cartoons and humans kind of live in camaraderie. For all intents and purposes, they all see the Looney Tunes as just television with actual people acting the characters. But no, they're legit people they're legit cartoons that somehow are being filmed and broadcasted to Earth on a surface world where people can enjoy their antics they do every day. So, of course, Michael Jordan gets embarrassed, by the fact that he's not doing so well at baseball. He meets his new publicist, Stan, who is kind of a dork. Even Larry Bird and Bill Murray acknowledge it, like, this dude's a dork. So we see his children, and his son is like is playing for a Little League Baseball, and he isn't doing so well. I kind of wish. Now, this is one thing that Space Jam 2 got a leg up on Space Jam 1. It actually had a little bit more focus with the family or some family members, rather than this movie where they're there, but they might as well not be there in the first one. So the Looney Tunes are laughing at the aliens, thinking like these little pipsqueaks gonna take us, abduct all of us. And of course, they got like the laser guns and everything like that, so they're a lot more intimidating now. Bugs then gets the idea of convincing them that there is a rule that if you want to attack us, you gotta allow us a chance to defend ourselves. So, the Looney Tunes had like a team huddle, and they start brainstorming, and they conclude that since these aliens are so small, not very fast, and can't jump very high, they decide, oh, well, there's only one activity. They will just pretty much even though they probably haven't, obviously the Looney Tunes never really played basketball before, but they'll probably fare a lot better given the fact that they're taller, faster, and can still jump high. Even though they don't probably have the talent to do so, they will still, by comparison to the aliens, will do a better job. So that's what they did. They challenged them to a game of basketball. So after learning what basketball is, the aliens go to Earth and then starts robbing the talent from certain NBA players. At least the big deal ones at the time: Charles Barkley, Muggsy Bogues, Sean Bradley, Patrick Ewing, and Larry Johnson. And once they return back to the Looney Tune world, they transform into the Monstars. Now, okay, the Looney Tunes are really scared now, and I was about to say that it's kind of their fault for showing them what basketball is, but they kind of had to tell them what, basketball is in order to play the game. But then again, I guess they could have just made something up, but I don't know. They didn't feel like they need to lie and then expect them to go all the way to Earth and rob the talent from players. So while Michael Jordan's golfing, Looney Tunes kidnap him, and like I said, Michael Jordan is too nonchalant about the fact that he's in Looney Tune land, meeting Bugs Bunny face to face. So they explain to him the situation, and they need his help in order to have a chance at winning this basketball game. Otherwise, we'll be these alien slaves forever. So, reluctantly, after Tweety gets hurt and emotionally manipulating Michael into agreeing to help them, Jordan decides to help him out. They also meet with Lola Bunny, who's probably the only other player who actually knows how to play basketball. Don't know how, but she does. And this is our first introduction to Lola Bunny, was this film. Since then, she's been in Looney Tunes cartoons as one of the most popular, characters. I do love her interpretation in this, but I really love her interpretation in the Looney Tunes show. I do not care for her interpretation in Space Jam 2, and of course being voiced by Zendaya, and it's like, nah, that's a no for me. No, it does not work. She's not funny. They're supposed to be funny. They are Looney Tunes. Space Jam 2 doesn't have them really being funny. I still remember more funny moments here than I do in the second film. Matter of fact, I haven't even revisited the second film since the movie came out. I've seen Space Jam 1 multiple times growing up throughout the years because it's so fun to revisit. So, Michael sends Daffy and Bugs back to his home to retrieve his basketball gear and sneakers so he can be able to better practice and play. So after they get there, we see like very bad acting from the children, but like I said, they're not in it much, so it's not really it doesn't really matter. So the kids give the shorts and the shoes to Bugs and Daffy and promise not to tell anybody about the secret game. So the game is on, and of course, like Stan shows up, decides to help out too, but honestly, he's there for the fat jokes. Now in the first half, they're getting like stomped on. They're getting some points, but they're getting stomped in the first half. Now during halftime, not only Stan finds out that the Monstars stole the talent from the NBA players, which explains why they are terrible at the game. And of course, you see little scenes where they're getting MRIs and EKGs and all that stuff just to figure out what's going on with them. And everybody's freaking out, during the NBA league, thinking like there's some kind of contagion or something going on that causing these particular players to not be as good. They think it's some kind of virus or something. Not really, doesn't really matter. I thought I'd address it still. So Bugs, being as crafty as he is, implemented a placebo by filling a water jug with water and writing down Michael's secret stuff to convince the other team members, pretty much like they taking some kind of steroid or something like that to make them more competitive. So this gives them kind of like a boost in confidence, where you see the Looney Tunes play to their strengths, utilizing their own skill set. Because when you realize it or not, they have unique powers in themselves. They're toons, and they need to implement their ability against these aliens who they're toons, but they don't utilize the same skill set. They rely on, like, you know, space lasers and stuff, or brute strength. We see like Wile E. Coyote using his skill set with, like, explosives and stuff. We see, you know, Emma Friday and Will 77 doing like a Pulp Fiction reference with guns, because they got weapons. Tweety, you know, using combat skills. It's all fun. And like I said, I think Jordan really shines in this moment. Like I said, other than, because, you know, you see like a close-up shot of him just kind of laughing at the entire antics. Some might think it's corny, but I think it's like still heartwarming, because it's like it feels real. Unlike LeBron James, where they're having that moment where they embracing their tooniness, and it's like they're like, get, like, you know, it's time to get loony, and his loony face was so weird and creepy, like doing this, his gigantic jaw, and it's like, ugh. And it's like, that's your loony face. That's, I don't know. God, LeBron James was, God, like, just Space Jam was just so fucking terrible. Such a bad idea. Anyway, so they managed to get, you know, pretty much even in the third quarter. Now it's at the final quarter, and Michael decides to raise the stakes, saying he'll agree to become his star attraction if the Toon Squad loses. But if the Monstars loses, they have to agree to give the talent back to the NBA players that they stole it from. So agreement is struck, and of course that's when, like, the secret stuff starting to wear off, and they get their asses kicked now. They're being brutally beaten. And of course, they need a fifth player, so Michael decides to bring in Stan against his better judgment. But by sheer dumb luck, and of course at the risk of Stan's body, he gets crushed, and the basketball shoots out of his hand and lands in the basket and evens the score. And of course, he is put on a gurney and hauled out of there, and he's wondering, like, how do you get flattened like that and do all this wild stuff? And Bugs and Daffy have to remind Michael Jordan, like, dude, this is Looney Tunes land. Anybody can do that. So then, needing a fifth player, Bill Murray just shows up. And of course, throughout the earlier parts, or at least the second half of the film, or no, the first half, where he talking about how, like, he feels like he can play professional basketball, even though, like, everybody, both Michael and Larry's telling him, no, you cannot. So this is a chance to show some stuff, and he plays pretty decently. I'm not saying he's great. He plays decently. So he gets Daffy to gut check one of the monsters, giving them a chance to keep the ball, and they pass it back and forth to each other with the clock really going down to the wire, and they pass the ball to Michael, who uses tuning logic to stretch his arm. One of the most iconic parts of the film, stretches his arm to reach to the basket to make a slam dunk, winning the game. And Michael reminding the Monstars, look, you're not so little anymore. You don't have to take this from this guy. So the Monstars send Swaghammer on a missile to crash on the moon. And they give back the talent, and the Neuralix decides to stay with the Looney Tunes. And Bill Murray, Michael Jordan, and Stan go back to Earth just in time for Michael's baseball game. And honestly, there's a reaction, but there's no big headlines that cartoons are real. Cartoons are real. I was like, people are very in awe to nonchalant about cartoons. A cartoon ship just landed in a baseball field. Michael Jordan walking out. Like, and people was like, not, like, people not, they're applauding, but they're not, like, asking questions. I guess it's not, like, a big deal, I guess. Michael gives back, the talent to the NBA players and decides to return back to professional basketball. And the movie ends with Michael Jordan playing and just dominating. And that was Space Jam. Like I said, this is a fun movie. It probably won't be like, unless you grew up in the 90s, late 80s into the 90s, you probably won't have like a soft spot for this film. You probably will look at this as like, yeah, this is kind of like corny. It doesn't make any sense. And sure, like, some of the acting is very poor. It's probably the biggest criticism of this film. But it's not for the Looney Tunes. The Looney Tunes are great. Michael Jordan, he has like a good portion of time where it's like his acting is very iffy. But then there's other times where his acting is like, there's some solid acting there. Oh, there's like some like product placement, or at least mentioned product placement that has ties to Michael Jordan, where you see Michael Jordan earlier in the film in a hotel lounging about before he's about to go golfing with Bill Murray and Larry Bird. He got McDonald's near the TV when the news reports about like the basketball players losing their talent is, or acting weird, is going widespread. But then you hear Stan pop in talking about like your Wheaties and your Gatorade and picking up a Big Mac on the way to the ballpark. And it's like, yeah, they got ties to Michael Jordan. He endorses a lot of that stuff. So yeah, it was funny when I was a kid. Now it's like, well, it's not cringe, but it's like, I get it, yeah. But anyway, yeah, that was Space Jam. Like I said, it was really fun. I thoroughly enjoyed revisiting this film after all these years. I had it on VHS and I wore that sucker out. That is a fun film, man. I don't care what anybody says. I had a great time with this film. I think it was one of the best Michael Jordan films of all time. There's a movie Air, this movie, and like the documentary. I forgot what it was called. What was it? My phone's charging right now. What was that documentary called? The Last Dance. That was called. The Michael Jordan. That's like the biggest like Michael Jordan like films. But I want that was like a mini series. I want like a straight up like documentary of his early life and his career in the NBA, I'm gonna tell you, it was probably his like retirement. Like, I want that complete documentary or biopic, I should say. That's what I really want to see, personally. Anyway, oh, and like one of these days, I'm not sure when, but it's crazy expensive. I want to go to the Michael Jordan restaurant that's downtown in Chicago, but it's expensive as hell. But I don't know. Maybe this should be like a treat. My birthday is in a few weeks. Maybe I'll treat myself to that. Who knows? But it's something I really wanted to try. But golly, I remember being, looking at the menu, and it's stupid expensive. That is like a special occasion type of restaurant. Anyway, I will see you guys a little bit later for some reaction videos. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of the original Space Jam film. What is your favorite song out of the soundtrack? What is your favorite scenes from the film? All that stuff. And I'll see you all for the next one. Peace.